The Trump administration says the ceasefire between Iran and Israel is in effect. Earlier this morning, President Trump expressed deep frustration with both sides for violating the agreement he brokered. The Trump administration was scheduled to hold separate classified briefings with members of the Senate and the House today regarding Iran and Israel. However, both briefings were postponed until later in the week. Joining us now is Congressman Chris Smith, senior member of the House Committee on Foreign Affairs. He represents the 4th Congressional District of New Jersey. Congressman Smith, welcome back to Washington Watch. Always good to see you.
Always great to see you too, Tony. Thank you for having me on. Really appreciate it. Well,
I'm going to get your reactions to the ceasefire. The president announced the ceasefire. A little frustrated this morning. It looked like it had been violated, but it appears to be holding.
It sure does. You know, I've never known a ceasefire that goes flawlessly day by day. I remember in the war in Yugoslavia, former Yugoslavia, every other day the ceasefire was being abridged. So hopefully this will stick, but there will probably be a few instances where it's not in the future. We need to stay on point and get to hopefully a diplomatic solution after the tremendous work that President Trump did to take out the nuclear capability. And we think he took out most of it, hopefully all of it, by the Iranians.
Now, Congressman Smith, you're a senior member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. You've been there for a long time. You've watched the events in the Middle East. How significant of a moment is this that we're in presently?
Well, I think it's a watershed moment. If we are able, our administration working with the Israelis, to take away the nuclear acquisition of nuclear weapons by Iran. I mean, they have said repeatedly, death to America, death to Israel. They put it on their ballistic missiles. They mean it. I believe they mean it. And if they had the opportunity, Tel Aviv would be gone. Probably not Jerusalem because of the Dome of the Rock, but they would use them and use them with impunity. So the hope is that now that they have been defanged, and the whole idea of what Obama did, which really just delayed and enabled the mullahs to acquire these weapons. And everyone forgets, when John Kerry was negotiating this, and it was a very flawed deal, ballistic missiles was on right there as part of the negotiation. They objected, and he agreed. They took ballistic missiles off the agreement. Are you kidding me? Why are you developing ballistic missiles? To someday mount a nuclear weapon on some, if not many of them, to destroy not just Israel, but they want the ICBM capability to hit America, to hit our European friends, to hit other nations in the Middle East, but to hit us, particularly on the East Coast.
Congressman Smith, will this ceasefire allow the Iranian regime to retain power? I mean, they were looking for a diplomatic off-ramp from the conflict.
Yes.
Many are saying that a regime change is necessary to bring about the changes needed. What happens from here?
Well, my hope is, in the past, when the Iranians have rebelled, as a matter of fact, infamously, our President Obama did nothing when they were calling out for help. There have been times when the Iranian people rose up. But again, the guys with the bayonets and the guns and all kinds of other instruments of torture and killing remains in the Iranian leadership's hands. Our hope is that this will lead to a gradual, quick would be even better, change of regime, because again, they are the leading terrorist state in the world. Thankfully, 2 of 3 of their top, Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis, have been dealt severe blows by, again, the Israelis and by ourselves. So that, the invincibility that this regime tried to portray to the world is anything but. But if they had nuclear weapons, their ability to extract extreme pain and cruelty, impose cruelty, would be manifest. And so we've got to make sure that they never get them. I love what President Trump says repeatedly. They can never have or acquire a nuclear weapon. And they can't. They have demonstrated that they would use any means necessary. If they had them today, they would have been used.
The briefing, classified briefing, has been postponed till later in the week. Open sources say that Israel was kind of targeting some of those repressive elements of the regime that you mentioned earlier. How much do we know in terms of the fragmentation of the repressive regime and their tentacles that have suppressed the people. Has that been dealt a blow?
It's a great question, and I have not. Tomorrow or next day we'll get the more classified briefing, but we know that the Israelis especially have taken out so many high-value targets, including the nuclear scientists, including the top commanders in the Revolutionary Guard. They have been systematic with assets on the ground, particularly with Mossad, to take these killers out. And, we stand, and I love that the president has said this as well, we stand with the Iranian people. They want peace. I know many of the diaspora here in the United States, this is not who they are. This is a radicalized, extreme, cruel group of people, thugs, if you will. So if they do get an agreement, I do think it's a matter of when and not if that over time they will be replaced. So my hope is this will be one of those moments like we saw in Eastern Europe, when Poland matriculated to a democracy, as well as Romania and a lot of the other Central and European countries. Sadly, the changes that happened in Russia were not long staying. We now have Putin, of course. But my hope is that we will, and then work with them. That means trade deals and a lot of other things to make it so that the good people of Iran and not the thugs emerge.
I think
they don't have that nuclear capability. I think we're talking, and so much of their military capability has been degraded by the amazing work of the Israeli Air Force.
I think there's going to be a lot of discussion about what happens next, because I think the American approach in Afghanistan, this nation building idea, those failed. I think this has to come up from the people there themselves, and it doesn't have to require a lot from the United States. I think the sanctions should remain in place and be released as the people take control and we start to see them moving in the right directions. We reward good behavior by, as you said, economic development, welcoming them into the broader community. But I think it's going to take a very disciplined approach and a different approach than what we've taken in the past.
No, that's true. And I think the enabling by the Biden administration and Obama before him, historians will look back on that and wonder, how could they have been so unbelievably naive? I did multiple speeches and we had hearings on the flawed nuclear deal as it was being agreed to, and then when it was agreed to, and it was like, this is nothing but enabling them, especially with sanctions relief and the rest, to continue as a terrorist state that will be nuclear armed someday. And remember the agreement that Obama agreed to by 2026, all bets are off. So by next year, even under that egregiously flawed agreement, they could have been building nuclear weapons to the
which is crazy. It was absolutely crazy. I want to, we just have about 2.5 minutes left. I want to switch gears a little, staying in the Middle East, but I want to look to Syria. No one has been more outspoken in the Congress than you when it comes to human rights and in protection of Christians. And over the weekend, an attack in Damascus, Syria, at a church where a gunman not only shot but then blew himself up, killing 25 and injuring another 63. I mean, what do we know about what's unfolding in Syria under the new leader?
Well, the president has already reached out, as we all know, during his Saudi trip. My hope is that, the Christians have suffered so much in the Middle East, including in Syria. The now deposed leader, who was a bloodthirsty tyrant, is gone. And the more we can, promote security for all, especially for the Christians who have suffered so much, the better. We don't want to see, in that whole region, ISIS and all the other radical Islamists reemerge, and I don't think they will. It was a very, very terrible thing. I saw it too, that news report. So hopefully we can do more to help. Well, and, I'm working on a lot of human rights issues, especially as it relates to Azerbaijan and some of these other countries as to what they did to the Armenians. Not way back, that was horrible, what the Turks did way back, but what they're doing right now. They've committed genocide against those living in Nagorno-Karabakh and had multiple hearings on it, raised it over and over again. And I may be the only congressman who met with Aliyev, the president of Baku, of Azerbaijan, twice in country to argue with him about his very, very serious human rights abuses that he commits.
Yeah, and we've seen, of course, you've been very outspoken on Nigeria as well. My
Yes.
concern here in Syria is the government turning a blind eye to these, like in this case, an ISIS affiliated attacker, not doing it themselves, but allowing it to occur. And so I appreciate you.
No, you're right. They've got to. We've got to put more pressure. I mean, everywhere you look, it's like for the Secretary of State, like drinking from a fire hose. There's so many crises, but we do have to pay attention to that.
Well, America's a leader, and we've got to speak out because people take note when we lead on these issues. Congressman Chris Smith, always great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.